And I want to say one thing, Michael, because I'm sure there are people who are listening to say, oh, I wish my husband could hear this, or I wish my boss could hear this. Forget it. I've actually had people who wanted to buy this book for their spouse, and I won't sell it to them, because you cannot make anybody else do it. It has to come from within. You have to want to do it. So one of the big problems, God has a sense of humor. He usually gives us a partner who's different than we are. I'm like one of those. When I married my husband, he was a colonel in the Army, and I figured he'd be organized. Well, I learned he had a bunch of privates to keep him organized, and he's a keeper. So we struggle a lot. And what I've had to learn is we all have to have our boundaries. But what's interesting is we can role model it. So when we got married, we had 5 children between the 2 of us, and 4 of them were drivers, which meant there were always car keys. You know, has anybody seen the keys? So one day I went out and I bought a magnetic key rack. I hung it up on the refrigerator, and I said, in the future, if I find any car keys, I will hang them on the rack, but otherwise don't ask me, because if they're not there, I don't know. And so that was the system we put in place, and we role modeled it. And now out of the 5 kids, at least 2 of them have magnetic key things on the refrigerator.
You're rubbing off.
Yeah.
You're rubbing off.
The other thing I want to say is that I was at a conference one time, and I was talking about, I was in New York City signing books at Barnes & Noble. And I had made a comment that whenever there was somebody who had a great deal of difficulty letting go of things, it was always because of emotion and because of some emotional thing. And this man came up to me like in his 20s, and he said, my apartment's full of papers. Every time I try to fix them, I become physically frozen. And then he stopped and he said, my mother died when I was 6. Are you telling me I have to deal with the grief of losing my mother before I can organize my papers? I said, you know, I can't really answer that. I'm not a mental health professional, but I can tell you what I've seen over and over. If you will find someone you trust, probably not a family member, to help you decide what you really need and want to keep, you can organize your papers, and it will probably help your emotions as well. I said that at a conference, and a woman came up to me and she said, you just saved my marriage. I said, wow, that's pretty dramatic. Can you tell me what you mean? She said, I came to this conference with the intention of going home and telling my husband, to whom I've been married for 13 years, that I was leaving. Because she said, he's a pack rat, and I have allergies, and I can't clean the house, and it makes me sick. And she stopped, and the tears went down her face, and she said, his mother died when he was 7. I never realized before that it wasn't that he wouldn't get rid of it, but that he couldn't. I said, may I make a suggestion? She said, yes. I said, go home and say to him something to the effect of, I never understood before how important all this is to you. Let's figure out how we can keep it and still stay together. And I followed up with them for 8 months, and they'd made great progress, because we can't force somebody else to do it. We have to work together, and we all have to compromise. So if you come to my house, you'll see parts of the house that are mine and parts that are my husband's.
Well, there you go. Oh, such wonderful times speaking with you, ma'am. Folks, check out Barbara Hemphill. Check out productiveenvironment.com. Be sure to go and connect with Barbara Hemphill. In closing, how can people get in touch with you? Is it productiveenvironment.com? Are you connectable, let's say, for instance, over other social media streams?
Absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, productiveenvironment.com, barbarahemphill.com. All of those places and you can reach me at barbara@barbarahemphill.com.
There you are. Man, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the 5P podcast. You really are an inspiration, and I appreciate you coming and sharing these wonderful insights with our audience members. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
Absolutely. Folks out there, if you're listening to this, subscribe, rate, review the podcast right now so that you can get valuable insights by brilliant people such as Barbara Hemphill. You can see all of her stuff at productiveenvironment.com. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, hit subscribe and ring that bell so that you get notified on each one of our releases. We've got all of our long form interviews inside of the 5P Inner Circle. They are uninterrupted for all of our 5P Inner Circle members to enjoy. So by all means, go to 5paragraph.com right now and join the 5P Inner Circle to get beautiful, wonderful insights from people such as Barbara Hemphill at productiveenvironment.com. Folks, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the 5P podcast. I am truly grateful for you. I am grateful for our 5P family. Thank you to each and every one of you. And until next episode, take care and be well.